Efendim iyi günler. Oturumumuzda
Everyone, we will talk about how sustainability will continue. We will talk about certification systems. As you know, building and material certification system methodologies. We are consumers of the housing system. In our sector, our buildings, what kind of certifications are there? NGOs or governments with which certification systems that they have the guarantee? What is the infrastructure and with the regulations these guarantees are ensured? We will discuss all of this. We have very good speakers. I'd like to give you information. 37% of the final energy consumption is taken by the buildings, and they are responsible 30% of greenhouse gases. So the evaluation of the energy is not very old, but we see it more and more, and with very prominent speakers we will discuss this. We will look at the situation in Turkey and what kind of activities are there in the international arena. We will look at this. I will not take much of your time, but I'll give you information about how it is guaranteed legally. When you consider the legal legislation in Turkey, there is the law number 56020. It ensures and guarantees the energy efficiency, and there is energy identification certificate, and yes, infrastructure system, a software system is taken aboard. I don't want to take much of your time, and I will introduce the prominent speakers. So what is there in the world and what is the situation in Turkey? We have Namık, Sandıkçı, Republic of Turkey, Environment and Urbanization, Energy Efficiency Branch to Acting Branch Director. The Sandıkçı will talk about energy efficiency buildings and near zero building energy buildings. When we say near zero buildings, we always get excited. We will discuss how this is possible. And then Samet Yılancı will be with us. I'd like to give you the order of our speakers. And then from a neighbor country, Stefanos Pallantzas with us. He's going to talk about, he's the president of the board of Hellenic Passive House Institute. He's going to give us information about the international arena. Then we will have Namık, Beykan, International Finance Cooperation, Green and Resilient Buildings expert. So I'd like to introduce my first guest, Namık Sandıkçı. Namık Bey, welcome to our session. Thank you very much. Namık Bey, I'd like to give you the CV of him, then I'll give the floor to him. He graduated from 1996 electricity engineering department. He graduated in 2008 in Selçuk University. He had his master's degree in 2008. He worked in different companies. He then entered into the Air Forces, and since 2015 he's been working in the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization. Thank you very much, and we give the floor to you, sir. Thank you very much. I'll share my screen, then I'll start my presentation. Can you see my screen right now? We cannot see it yet. Can you see my slides right now? Thank you. I'm working in the branch of energy efficiency department. I'll talk about the legislation process and NSEF, the near zero energy building, the current situation in Turkey, and the NSEF applications will be given to you. As a department, if you can have full screen, can you have the full screen? It is full screen right now. Can you see it? Please. We have a limited time. You have 15 minutes of time. I try to make it full screen, but that is what we have. I'll talk about the legislation and then I'll talk about the development process. There is the law of energy efficiency. This is our fundamental document, and regarding that, there is the regulation of energy performance in buildings, and there are two communiques following that. Of course, for the residential areas and buildings, green certificate regulation, and we prepared the communique for that, and for the heating system, central heating system, and sharing the cost of hot water, and these are the legislation we have. And when you look at the development of the documents in 2000, the heat insulation regulation was put into effect. The outer insulation was in this, and in 2007, there was a very detailed energy efficiency law was put into effect, and then in Turkey the energy efficiency activities started, and we prepared the energy efficiency performance regulation in buildings published in 2010, and energy identification certificate was become a mandate to prepare, and the standards are taken in that, and based on this, it is about how to national calculation method was published in a communique in 2010, and of course a communique for the training institutions for trainers is published between 2010 and 2017. The energy identification document was put, and energy performance was improved, and following that it came 2010-2023. For covering these 2 years, there is a national climate change strategy document is published, and national action plan, climate change action plan is prepared. And then this strategy document was prepared in 2012, and this strategy document was published in 2017. An action plan, national action plan, is prepared and published, covering 2023, and there are 9 articles given to our ministry, and we finalized our actions in 95%. Following that, for the residential areas and buildings, the green certificate regulation was published. And the activities, very detailed activities conducted between 2007 and 2017. In 2021, there is a communique published by that. There is the evaluation methods and the evaluation institutions information is published in this. As you said, yes, software has been finalized and that the green certificate preparation will start in the beginning. When we look at the resource use, we can say that 16% of the fresh water and 30% of water, wastewater, 38% of carbon dioxide emission, and 24% and 50% of the energies are used by the buildings. But there are some measures for that to be taken and feasible operation, and with the measures we can decrease these figures. For example, with simple and normal measures, we can decrease the uses 50% to 75%. Greenhouse emissions can be decreased by 40 and 50%, and 20% for water use, and 70% for the waste, solid waste management can be achieved with the simple measures to be taken for the building, and all of these will be in the green certificate. I'll talk about NSEF. My screen is freezing. Your presentation is not. I'll stop sharing the screen and I'll try again. Regarding NSEP, can you see my presentation right now? We can't see your presentation on the screen right now, Namık Bey. I'm trying to follow from YouTube as well. That's why I stopped. We can't say it full screen, but if it will proceed, I think. I'll start from here, and I think that it will continue. There is the NSEP, which is a near zero energy building. So there is this definition is getting disseminated, and this is taken from the definition. It is called near zero energy building, and for energy demand, it is supported with the renewable energy, and these are the high energy efficient buildings. This concept is taken from the European Parliament's Energy Performance Directive. This definition is taken directly from. And in the 9th article of this directive, it says that the member states, in order to increase the number of zero energy buildings, there are some national mandates given to the member states. Taken into account, one of the objectives is to decrease the greenhouse emissions 80 to 95% for the greenhouse gases, and it is about transformation of the buildings to zero energy buildings, and this could be done through a cost-efficient perspective. I'll talk to you about how we made the definition details. I'll tell you the situation. We can see Spain, France, Germany, Spain, Greece, and France and Germany. For example, in Spain, there is a decrease of 60 to 50 megawatts in green energy. 60% of renewable energy should be used, and it is taken to 80 megawatts per square meter, and France 50 kilowatts per hour, and for Germany 55 kilowatt per hour is the objective. And after these activities, we made a roadmap for our country, and we started this roadmap. We finalized it, and I'll give you information because in 81 building provinces, we have different scenarios for this, and for each climate region, there are certain buildings, and then the buildings with the energy identification certificate is C, with the illumination lighting systems. So we equip these buildings, and for buildings for each climate region and for all the buildings, we found this, and then optimum we actually increases energy efficiency is taken to optimum level. Optimum mechanical and heat insulation levels are detected. As I pointed out, energy performance directive is not only for these buildings, and it is the legislation supports that as well, and it is in a cost-effective manner for the we equip these buildings with that. You have 5 minutes. Last 5 minutes. I'd like to remind you of this. For each building type, there is with a BEPTR software. We worked on all the scenarios, and for 81 provinces, an NCEP model is also defined. And the model defined is in the process of turning into a legislation. There will be an NCEP that will be with the energy performance systems. So there will be energy performance of value is calculated, and in the upcoming months, that will turn into a legislation. And in 23 plans for certain buildings with NCEP, we object that these buildings will be zero energy buildings. I don't have much time, but there are, you can see the number of the experts and the authorized companies. We can look at the energy identification number. We have a obligatory certification system, and when we look at this document in the we have we have 1.3 million buildings with this document, and we have 8 million building stock. This number is not very high, but it is progressing very quickly. In 60,000 of the 1.3 million buildings use renewable energy, and the 1.3 million buildings with A class is 3,000, and for B class it is somewhat better, 320,000 B class buildings are present in our country. In the current situation, Since the first legislation, where were we and where are we right now? Let's look at this. For the energy performance regulation is enacted, and as there's the similar mandate is published, we can say that it was 180 kilowatt per hour, but now it is 130 kilowatt per hour. I'll give you our objectives, and this is 130 kilowatt per hour a year. We will push it with NSET for the near zero buildings, and the green certificate will be disseminated. And for that reason, all the activities that we have in the library, you can look at this in the professional services in our website of the ministry, all the data, all the documents, all the guidelines for the practitioners and for the ones to be implemented. All the guidelines can be taken from the General Directorate of Professional Services. This is, I will finish my presentation here, and thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you very much, Namık Bey. We will have the chance to ask the questions to Namık Bey. Now, we have from the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization, Energy Efficiency Branch, and Environment and Urbanization expert, Samet Bey. Welcome, Samet Bey. So before giving the floor, I'll give you the CV of Samet Bey. In 1987, he was born in Trabzon, and in 2001, he graduated from Kadir Has University. He acted as an engineer until 2014. Since 2014, he is working in the Ministry of Environment in the Professional Services Department, Energy Efficiency Branch. Is there anything I missed, Samet Bey? No, thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Yılancı will talk about the sustainable green buildings and districts. The floor is yours, sir. I hope that the full screen problem, we will not have this full screen problem. Yes, we can see it, but it is not in a full screen. Maybe there is a problem with the system. So I'll start. So, sorry for that shortcoming. I'll talk about sustainable green buildings and sustainable green districts. I'll talk about the certification systems and what is the green building, and also the activities that we conducted, and that the certificate. We will talk about the ES software as well. When we say green building, the green building are the buildings on all the planning is made, design, construction, and operation, and the damage in the nature is minimized. So the renewable energy is used in maximum level, and the water use and waste management. For that, the sustainable materials should be used in the green buildings. When we look at the general properties of these green buildings, energy, water, and all the resources should be used in an efficient manner, and the renewable energy is to increase the position of the building, and with the waste management, decrease effect on the nature, and increasing the indoor air quality. And for the tenants and to be used there to increase their life quality, and the materials shouldn't be toxic materials, and that will give minimum harm to the environment. This is the material use of these green buildings. And of course, when we look at the benefit of green buildings, there could be three categories: environmental, economic, and social categories. When we say environmental effect, in global terms, the buildings in this sector has the largest potential for greenhouse gas emission decrease. And also in the report by 2050, with the energy efficiency investments and with the transformation of fossil fuels with renewable energy, there will be 84 gigaton carbon dioxide emission can be saved. And with the Paris Convention, there is 2 degrees of heat increase, and for that by 2050 there will be 50% of energy savings, and it has a huge potential. And in the level of building, as we can see in other countries, for the buildings with green houses, green certificates, the emissions is 50% less, and by 20 to 40%, the other resources is used in a more efficient manner. When we look at the economic impact of this in global terms, for the energy efficiency measures, there could be 280 and 410 billion saving can be seen. It is a twofold of the use of America. For example, in a study conducted in Canada, we see that the green building sector employs 300,000 people. So it is important to have economic development and growth. And in the level of building, for the building, the tenants living in green building certificate, there is a 50% of value increase. These are all very encouraging and incentive elements. So people think, why do I have the energy efficient building? Why do I have a green building? People think that, but it's important to show this to people, and socially speaking, so in green and good ventilated offices, these people living in the offices and working and living in the offices, and this we can say that more than this 100% of cognitive functionalities, and there is an increase in the work performance as can be seen in different activities. So when we look at the green certificate programs in the world, so in all the developed countries, they have green certificate programs. There is a lead in America, brand in the UK, Green Star in New Zealand, Cascale in Japan, and there's DGMB in Germany, HPHI in France. So in all the countries, there are the staff, and it's about the criteria, which is the defining point here. They have common evaluation teams, energy use, and water management, waste management, and material selection. So based on which team you are giving more weight, you can just change your scoring. For example, Japan is a country in the environmental line, and they give more information, more weight to the activities in the earthquake-related activities. When we look at our countries, as of 8 December 2014, the regulation on sustainable green buildings and sustainable districts, the documentation and certification regulation was published in official gazette, and an active studies conducted with Istanbul Technical University, the evaluation guideline is prepared, and green building certification system for the infrastructure of this study conducted until 2017. This study was finalized, and with the system, there is in 2017, 23rd of December, the green certificate regulation was published, and with the revisions, there is the communique is published regarding the implementation certificate, green certificate implementation on 9th of June 2021, and 3 months ago. And there are the modules, and which modules have which scores, which publish them in a transparent way. And when we look at the green certificate program, there is a building module and there is the district modules. There are 5 main modules in buildings, the building, and also materials, and also the innovation and water and waste management. When we say green building, the concept and the criteria to be there, and other points can be scored here. And for districts, there is the regional priority profiles, sustainable land use, ecology and disaster management, transportation, mobilization, urban design, and social and economic sustainability. And we have the innovation title in that. And when we look at the criteria and the scoring, we can say that there are seven building typology: the office, residential building, shopping mall, health, and there are the new building and the current building concepts. And the of course, the procedures are different for new buildings and current buildings, so that's why the scoring is different. And here, in integrated building design, it is a 15 scores, and for hotels and for hospitals, the score is 13. While it is 15 in the residential houses and in the current buildings. So we can say that 20 out of 100 is given for office, and for shopping mall, it is 30 as a score. For innovation, there is plus 10 points. The 10 points is extra. It is not a obligation to take this, and it doesn't affect the certificate degrees. But regarding that, when we look at the districts, and it is again 100%, and 100 points plus 10 points can be taken, and 8 for regional priority profile, 26 for sustainable land use, for transportation 25, for urban design 21, and for social and economic sustainability it is 20 score is given. There are 77 criteria. I wanted to go into details of this, but we have a time constraint here. And if you look at our communique, all the scores and their explanations are published there. There is estr.jsb.gov.tr, and you can, there are the green certificate experts, the district owners, the building owners, and we as the officials of the ministry, we can go into this system, and based on their authorization, the rules are defined. And here you can also make data entry to the system. When we look at the system,
So first you need to have an agreement with a green certificate expert who has been trained accordingly. Together with expert, you prepare an application document which includes 77 criteria and the items that are graded. The green certificate expert agrees with an assessment authority, and the assessment authority officer sends all these documents to the green certificate expert. Actually, these are the same people, but the green certificate expert, when they work under an assessment authority, we call them a green certificate assessment expert. And the green certificate assessment expert evaluate it and send it back to the green certificate expert, saying that there are these shortcomings in the module, and then they organize it again and upload to the system. And together with the ratings of the green certificate assessment experts, we see a point. Would like to get your final remarks. Sure, you see the certificate here, Ms. Yasemin. Here there is this name of the building and the address. It says actually 4 levels. You need to have at least 32 out of 100 to obtain a green certificate, and there are ratings like good, very well, or pass. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time compliance. The next speaker will be Stefanos Pallantzas. Before moving on to his presentation, we'd like to have a little information section, please.
I assume that you are inviting me to present. Thank you for the invitation. It's really, I'm very happy to be here in this forum for the 2nd year. So give me seconds to share my screen. I hope you see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I was invited to speak about passive house components and building certification. Allow me for just 1 or 2 minutes to present my organization, my company, which is called Hellenic Passive House Institute. The institute was founded to preserve the integrity of the passive house standards and methodology, and promote passive house principle to the industry and government, undertake research and development on passive house standards in Greece and the wider area, and of course promote, educate, facilitate and develop a strong identity, understanding and demand for the passive house concept. The Hellenic Passive House Institute signed a pre-affiliation agreement with the International Passive House Association in September 2012, which transferred over into full affiliation as of March of 2013. Until now, we have done more than 50 passive house basics courses all over the country and in the area, over 30 certified passive house designer and tradesperson courses. We have more than 150 certified designers in Greece, 50 passive house projects are ongoing, and 9 of them are already certified in Greece, Germany, and Italy, and other are now under certification. I will have tomorrow another presentation on that. And also we have started with component certification. We are assessors of the Passive House Institute in Germany, and we have already certified 12 window systems in Greece and in Turkey. The last one 2 days ago in Turkey. Now, why to certify a component? Worldwide, the market for highly efficient buildings is growing rapidly, and with the need and with it the need for reliably performing components. But often the requirements as well as the approaches how to fulfill them are unclear, and some producers might claim specifications that they cannot guarantee in reality. The Passive House Institute certifies highly energy efficient components according to the international criteria and in order to meet comfort, hygiene, and efficiency requirements. As part of the certification process, PHI offers consultations for manufacturers. The manufacturer receives a certificate that guarantees reliable performance. Furthermore, the specifications needed as data input for a reliable energy balance with the PHPP, our software, and are provided to the designers. So the benefits of the certification are, first of all, profit from the consultation of decades of experience from skilled PHI experts to get your product ready for certification. Secondly, quality assurance for product design of high performance buildings. And of course, entrance into a very growing market. Also, you have an increased market visibility and product recognition. You have independently tested and certified use of certified Passive House component seal. And of course, you have also a presentation in Passive House Institute component database and integration in the PHPP software. Now, what to certify? What kind of components can you certify? You can certify all transparent building envelope components, all opaque, like all transparent meaning like windows and other things, or skylights and so on, all opaque building envelope components, also some protection and window installation systems, balcony and window connections, and in order to avoid thermal bridges, air tightness systems like tapes or membranes, all kinds of ventilation systems for residential and non-residential buildings, small, big ventilation units, but also centralized or decentralized units, single or compact heat pumps, and also warm water heat recovery systems. How does this certification procedure work? As you see, the manufacturer provides his idea with his product. The simulator, the assessors, we evaluate the component. And if this evaluation drives to criteria met, then we go further, we send further to PHI, and PHI sends contract and bill to the manufacturer. And if he paid, he will get his certificate. If the criteria are not met, then the simulator makes suggestions and start a discussion in order to improve the product together with the manufacturer and also with the guidance of PHI people. And this can be done sometimes in only a week or maybe in a year, because many cycles might be necessary. But so far, you have to know that so far every request led to a successful certification. If you need further information about component certification, you can follow this link here, or you can contact us directly or directly PHI in Germany. Now let's go to the building certification and the quality assured for new passive house buildings. Passive house buildings are characterized by particularly high levels of comfort with very low energy consumption. This is achieved primarily through the use of passive house components like passive house windows, insulation, and heat recovery. From the outside, passive house buildings do not differ from conventional buildings because passive house means a standard and not a particular type of construction. For building certification, planning execution is checked carefully and comprehensively. Other documentation relating to the construction, such as the airtightness test, complete the quality assurance process. A certificate is only issued if the exactly defined criteria have been met without exemption. Advantages for the owner having a certified passive house building. First of all, certainty that the agreed upon energy standard will actually be achieved. Increase in property value through independent quality assessment. The reviewed energy balance using the passive house planning package can be submitted for various subsidy programs in several countries. The certifier can spot energy saving measures which would be too costly and go above and beyond what is required for the passive house standard. Construction costs can be saved this way. And also with a plaque on the building's facade, the high efficiency standard can be made visible to the public. There are also advantages for the designer, for the engineer, for the architect, and these are the prevention of errors due to thorough external checking of planning prior to the start of construction, and of course the recognition as a certified passive house designer by submitting the certified building. So there are two ways to be a certified designer. The one is to take the course and the exam. The other one is to design and build a passive house building which will be certified. Now the procedure, the certification procedure of the building. We can say that mainly the certification procedure differs from other certification schemes because we pay much more attention. 90% of our attention is before construction starts. And this is very, very important because this is the way that we are sure that no mistakes will be done. At the end of the construction, there are only two things that we check, and maybe we are the only ones that check this in some countries, at least in Greece and Turkey, I believe there is no obligation. And this is the air tightness of the building. We are obliged to test this, and also the commissioning of the ventilation system. These two things has to be controlled and validated after the final construction, and this is one of the purposes that we must do before issuing the certificate. So the following phases are the initial check at the start of the project. So the certifier will check whether the project contains special objects and will clarify how this should be assessed in the building certification. The preliminary review, design phase, assessment of the concepts for the design, insulation and building services, and of the preliminary version of the PHPP calculation for consistency with the certification criteria. This kind of preliminary review makes sense, particularly in the case of large projects, and if the planning team has little experience with the passive house standard. Also in the design stage, we have a review before the start of the construction, and this all energy relevant planning documents, the technical data of construction products, and the complete passive house planning package calculation should be submitted to the certifier, preferably before the start of the construction work. After a careful review and comparison with the energy balance calculation, the certifier will inform the client of any necessary corrections. If all is well, the certifier will confirm that the envisaged energy standard will be achieved with the implementation of the planning at hand. Execution of the construction work can now begin. And finally, queries regarding certification continually during planning and construction for planning decisions which affect the energy balance. It may make sense to coordinate with the certifier at an early stage how these decisions will be assessed, and in context of certification if the passive house designer is uncertain. This is particularly important in the case of large projects and where the passive house designers are less experienced. Continuous communication during the course of the project outside of the actual assessment times may incur considerable time expenditure for the certifier. Therefore, it is advisable to clearly state in the agreement whether this is included in the offer or not. There are specified criteria for the passive house and the ENERFIT and PHI low energy building standards, and these criteria were defined by the passive house institute 20 years ago and are upgraded every 2 or 3 years. They precisely define the different requirements which a building must fulfill in order to achieve the highly efficient passive house standard. In addition to the passive house standard, the current document containing the criteria also includes the EnerFit standard that was introduced in 2010 for building retrofits using passive house components and the requirements for a PHI low energy building, which were introduced in 2015. Anyone buying or commissioning a house built to one of these 3 standards should always expressly demand a building in accordance with the definition set out by the Passive House Institute, preferably with certification. This will ensure legal certainty in case of conflict. The latest version of the document criteria for the Passive House, EnerFit and PHI low energy building standards, called criteria, is always available in the Passive House Institute website. The German, English, and Spanish versions are published directly by the Passive House Institute. Other versions like the Greek one are present in our website. International partners of the Passive House have prepared translation of these criteria in other languages. In principle, certification will take place according to the currently valid version of the criteria applicable at the start of the planning. Newer versions of the criteria that are published during the course of the project do not have to be adapted. Passive house project planning is an important part of the planning for a building. The most important tool for this purpose is the Passive House Planning Package, our software. The building's energy balance and the annual demands are calculated with it. The PHPP model shows exactly which measures will have to be planned and implemented to achieve the Passive House or EnerFit standard. The design planning and execution planning, together with the PHPP calculation, are then submitted to the certifier for checking. Depending on the expertise of the planning team, our institute, in collaboration with the Passive House Institute, provides also consultancy services relating to energy relevant issues for the planning and implementation of your project. The ranges of services provided can be agreed upon on an individual basis. If you need more information about component and building certification, you can contact us in the data that you see on the left, or you can contact direct the Passive House Institute and the International Passive House Association in Germany. Thank you very much for listening.
Mr. Pallantzas, thank you very much. Efendim, pasif ev bina sertifikası
shared information about the housing and components, passive housing component certification. He joined us as the president of board of the Hellenic Passive House Institute. We started to receive questions. Now I would like to invite our next speaker. Ms. Beykan is with us. Welcome. Hi, thank you. We're going to talk about the IFC's EDGE certification and zero carbon buildings. She is an expert at the International Finance Corporation, a green and resilient buildings expert. She works on climate change, green buildings, providing consultancy to the private institutions as well as municipalities. And now she contributes to the development of green and resilient buildings. She graduated from Architecture Department of Istanbul University in 2011 and accepted to Harvard University with a Fulbright scholarship dealing with design aspects. And before joining IFC team, she worked on EDGE Green Buildings Transition Institutions Coordination Department. Now the floor is yours. Let me share my screen with you. Can you see my screen comfortably? No, okay, we can see it now. Okay, wonderful. I would like to thank you for your kind invitation to this valuable event, and thank you to everyone who made contributions to this event. First, I would like to refer to IFC, International Finance Corporation. A brief introduction. It deals with the private sector investments of the World Bank Group. And as part of IFC, we have the green building component. We show a systematic approach about the contribution of the private sector to green buildings. Our strategy consists of 4 components. We prioritize working with banks on one side. Also, we make direct investments to the building sector. Also, we provide technical consultancy to the public institute about green buildings and provide them with information about incentives. Also, we provide EDGE certification on the 4th component. These activities proceed in a very successful manner on a global scale, and we cover over 170 countries, and we invested over $6.4 billion and certified over 27 million square meters of spaces so far. Climate change related challenges were reminded in this event. I would like to point to an aspect though regarding the zero carbon buildings. By 2030, all new buildings must be zero net carbon, according to the IFC report, and by 2050, all buildings must be zero net carbon, which means a considerable transformation for our urban areas. And here we need tools and facilitators for that. Less than 1% of the buildings are have green certification. And as IFC, we had the basic question of how to make it more common. And actually, companies or project developers did not want to make such investments because the buyers would bear the burden of such costs. Also, we know that this is going to be giving profits in the long term, and finance institutions were suspicious about whether there will be enough payment. And then they said, why would we need special financing products? Because we don't already see many examples of green buildings. Or they ask the questions of why would they allocate such a specific financing for that. But we see in Colombia, for example, 17% of new construction is not EDGE certified. So our path forward actually removes these concerns and question marks. If you haven't heard about EDGE before, we can say that it stands for Excellence in Design for Greater Efficiencies. And there are 3 main components. First, it is a free software, online software you can access through our website, providing you with the most cost-efficient solutions for your project. Second, it targets 20% resource efficiency, and this standard provides you measurability. And third, it has a green certificate system that verifies and awards those buildings. And 21st resource efficiency is actually in line with the international green requirements of the below institutions. So if you want to have certification for your building, and if you can check it with the relevant measurement criteria, then you can get funded by the financing means provided by these institutions. So it is very closely related with the financing side. As mentioned earlier, we have EDGE in over 170 countries for both current and new buildings, and it covers a wide range of structures, including hospitals, industry, warehouses, schools, hospitals. If we are to take a short look at the software, we don't have much time, unfortunately, to demonstrate it. When you enter the location and other relevant information of your building, you see that there are information pieces about regulations and other documents. And based on that information, it actually puts forth a reference building. So if you were to design that building, depending on the climate conditions or legislations, that would be the reference building, the software says. And this easy-to-use tool enables you to actually look at your designer's need as well as the cultural aspects of your user, and of course, your budget, and you optimize the best solutions in terms of energy efficiency, water efficiency, and materials efficiency. And the most important feature of this software is that it gives you an idea about additional activities, return on investment, and the savings on that with one single click. Therefore, it provides a financial picture. And let me reiterate that it provides you solutions that are suitable for you, and it expects you to choose it. So you are not actually punished for solutions that are not conducive for your area, quote unquote, punished. Because we want to avoid the green building and zero carbon, we have three tiers in EDGE, or three levels. First, we look at energy efficiency, and we look at water efficiency and material efficiency. And you need to show on level 1 that you have efficiencies of 20%. The next one is about the advanced level, and we focus on the carbon footprint within the framework of fighting with climate change. You are expected to achieve 40% of energy efficiency. And of course, this is an incentive for efficiency in other areas. Actually, we accept them to be ready for zero carbon level. So buildings can apply for zero carbon certificate if they complete level 2. How do you get zero carbon certificate though? After achieving 40% of energy efficiency in the building, you use renewable energy or make use of carbon offsets. And that is a certificate about the usage period of the building. So here you need to look at you need to first have the EDGE Advanced certificate about the structural features of the building in order to have that net zero certificate. Of course, this is not always feasible to achieve zero carbon because of use. We have undesired emissions, for example, related to consumption or related to cooking, or we can talk about fuel-based emissions. Also, these emissions may result from the materials. Here, if necessary, we can apply renewable energy in the field or outside, getting credits in the field or outside the field, or you can make use of carbon offsetting. A footnote would be that we can measure the materials within the edge system, so enable you to make use of carbon offsetting there. And the calculation is not very complicated. And you can see automatic calculation of them as part of our software soon. So renewable energy credit sellers and offset suppliers cooperate with us, and you see a list on the right-hand side of the screen. How do we determine the zero carbon standards? Well, we work with the Work Resources Institute and Architecture 2030 in cooperation, and act consistent with their approaches. First, we look at a building to get zero carbon certificate from an energy efficiency perspective, and then address carbon offsetting and zero carbon targets. So we do not immediately tie a building to renewable energy resource without changing the load on the system. First, we want to decrease the energy demand so that supply can be accessed by everyone. And of course, zero carbon system shows the carbon footprint. And here we also look at the financial impacts of the solutions and how users can obtain that. If you look at the certification flow, first you get a preliminary certificate for design. They are valid for 3 years. And then you get the final edge certification after the completion of your project. There is this design-based audit in the preliminary case. In the post-construction process, though, you get certification after the field inspection or audit. And when you get the edge certificate, you can apply for edge zero carbon certificate. If I can elaborate a little more, can we wrap up very slowly? Okay, a very little left. You first get edge advance, and then your project is used for a year, and then you are expected to collect data.
You are expected to collect data, and then you can use the credits for this. If you use it, you need to renew your energy certificate in every 2 years. And if the renewable energy is integrated, then it becomes 4 years, because we also need to check these certificates in a certain period, given the fact that your energy consumption values may change in years. Of course, it can be used also at zero carbon. Let me skip this part. You can see the certificate here. It demonstrates all these information, and if you want to get more information, we have project samples from different parts of the world. You can visit our website, and our program called the Green Buildings is growing despite the pandemic. Maybe because of the pandemic, let me phrase this way, we have increased this area that we have certified 3 times. If I have time, let me talk about another program that we have. It is the Edge 2, and we have also Building Resilience Index. And we are working on this, the climate change mitigation, and it's a web-based mapping program. And depending on the location of your building, you can calculate the risk of the disasters that your building is supposed, and it will be a self-assessment so that you can get an idea about the standardization or the situation of your building. It is of course, important for finance, especially for insurance cost, etc. And I think it will facilitate the process. It will be online very soon. And then if you follow us on social media, then you can get more information and you can keep your information up to date and you can see our supporters. And also I would like to thank you for organizing this event. Thanks a lot, Naz Hanım, for your presentation. It is quite informative. As I mentioned in the beginning, we receive questions, and some questions are raising important issues, but there are also some common points. That means if you want to answer, you can take the floor. Let me begin with specific questions, and I will follow the same order. The first question goes to our first presenters. I think this question goes to Namık Bey and Samet Bey. Does the ministry organize trainings? Is there any date that has been set for the transition? Because you talked about the themes that were created for this issue. I think the question is about the theme. Yes. The floor is yours. Thanks a lot. Let me answer the question. We talked about two certification programs. The first one is the energy identity, and the second one is the energy issue. And we are currently having our trainings for energy issue, and we have some companies which are carrying out these trainings, and you can find a list of this issue. As regards to the green certification, we will begin our activities next year. There are some applications that we are examining, and Istanbul Technical University is the first institution that we signed a protocol for trainings. That means Istanbul Technical University will be conducting these trainings on these green certifications. And of course, we will have trainers. We have some other applications. Most probably, we will begin the trainings next month, which will be conducted by the Istanbul Technical University. Thanks a lot. Is there anyone who would like to add any point to this issue? The next question, I think, it's a common question, and it is open to all panelists. So the question is as follows. As you know, these certification issues, there are several collaborations. She's trying to read the question and apologizes. And do you think that there will be an increase in these type of collaborations? And do you think there will be new initiative of collaborations and cooperations? And the question is about if there is any opportunities for new collaborations. Naz Hanım, would you like to respond to that? Yes, given the fact that we are an international organization, we cooperate and collaborate with many other international organizations that I mentioned in my presentation. For example, the World Resource Institute and the architecture, and we work with the DGNB and these type of green building certification giants. These are the most known institutions that we cooperate and collaborate. These are our close stakeholders. Of course, there are some other local initiatives that we are collaborating and cooperating. We work with local administrations, or we work with central governments. For us, we can't work without any partner. Mr. Stefanos, would you like to add any point to this question? Yes.
A question for me about the climate crisis and the cooperation of certification bodies. In fact, we are doing this already. We are already have cooperation even with Turkish companies in offering several certification schemes. in both countries and in the wider area. We are still seeking of further cooperation, but I had to tell you something else about the Passive House Standard. The Passive House Standard is not competitive to the other certification schemes like LEED or EDGE, as mentioned, or Living Challenge and things like that. For example, in LEED, if there are, I think, about 38 points for energy performance, and another 20 or 20-something points for indoor air quality. And the LEED accepts if you get a Passive House certification, then you get all the 38 points of the energy performance, and you get most of the 20-something points of indoor air quality. Because in Passive House Standard, we have the best energy performance for buildings worldwide, and of course, we have perfect indoor air quality. So cooperation between, there are many projects in especially in US, which have both Passive House and LEED Gold or LEED Platinum certification. We also have a cross check with Living Challenge certification scheme, and there someone can have both certification in one package, let's say, if he is interesting. The same happens with BREEAM in the UK, and I think we have discussions at the moment centrally with also with DGMB and with other certification schemes in order to create this kind of cooperation. The problem is, in my opinion, there are too many of them. So every country decides to do something for itself, and this is not good. Passive House has this main advantage that it is a global standard. You can adapt it anywhere in the world, anywhere in the planet. It's only calculation, it's only building physics.
Yes, thank you very much.
Namık Bey, Samet Bey, would you like to add something on this issue regarding these cooperation and collaboration opportunities? But there are more questions to you. Thanks a lot. We as the ministry, of course, we cooperate with finance institutes, and also we cooperate with certification institutions while we are working on this green certificate at the national level. As Samet Bey stated, we examine the international standards and institutions, and we examined all of them. Then we transform it into a national level. We work with the Mimar Sinan University, Turkish Standards Institutes, and the issue is how to gather them, how to assemble them under the national standards. That is the key issue for us. And we work with all of them. We cooperate with all of them, and we aim to combine all of them for our orchestrated efforts. There is another question to you regarding the reference building. So, does the EDGE member pay attention to national requirements when or does this EDGE member use the standard? It is 9.3 if she pronounces correctly. The reference building is a national energy performance calculation system, and we have this EDGE standards. Of course, it is based on EDGE standards, but it allows all national standards, and we use all these reference systems. But of course, it is mainly for buildings, offices, commercial buildings, hotels. We have these type of reference buildings as well. Nasanım, there is another question to you. In this EDGE interface, do you have standards, and each country users, how can they integrate or enter their country standards into the system? Yes, as Namık Bey stated, let me comment on the previous question as well. Yes, in Turkey, the TS 825 is still valid in our system. This is the base for us. And we use the relevant standards. As regards to the users' habits, we have made global analysis and we try to find an average based on different countries' values and the types of users in different countries, because we aim to share the general concept, general understanding, and how to facilitate the financing aspect. We, of course, use the term generalization. This is the practice that we sometimes use, but we have also some detailed studies, and it does not cause big deviations. I also would like to note that we continuously update our reference building standards, and in next October we will have 3.0 standards. Since there has been a continuous increase in this LED lighting, for us LED lighting is as a standard for our reference building, which will increase the productivity, which will increase the efficiency, sorry. So we are improving our standard and we are increasing also our threshold. Hope that I answered your question. Thanks a lot. There is another question from Bekir Bey to Samet Bey. I think you already covered some aspects of this question in your presentation. The question is as follows: the certification system that you created, how long you have been working on the certification system and when you will have the system? I think you shared these dates with us in your presentation. As I stated in my presentation, we began working on this issue in 2014, and in 2017 we began working on the software aspect, and in early 2021 we completed the infrastructure phase, as my colleague Namık stated, and the system will be completely active in early 2022. And regarding the certification system, is there any deadline to adjust this? And according to your response, it is 2022, but green certification is not a compulsory act. It is mainly incentives at the global level, and it will be in the form of incentives for our case as well, for our country as well. So it will not be an obligation. It will not be a compulsory requirement. However, it will be an incentive. However, there might be an obligation, as in the case of NZEP, and we will use this issue. It's a question to all of them. And there are only a few passive house components. Why do we have this issue? So it is not only the buildings, but also we need to certification for the materials as well. Namık Bey, would you like to respond to this question? Then I will give floor to Mr. Pallantzas. Yes, thanks, Salih. In this, we expect that there will be certain standards to obtain these green certification, sorry. And this is what we expect. This is what we want. But why don't we have passive house certificates? Why don't we have so many materials that have these green certificates and that have been certified as green certifications? I don't want to say something. I just want to say that we encourage the use of this issue, and we also publish them in our certifications, and we also show them in our list. And as a result of our project with a German institution, we gather the manufacturers and also the users, and we prepared a document to gather, and you can find it on our website, which is called the Technology Atlas. And we have activities to encourage people to use it, to manufacture it, and to obtain the certifications for the materials that are used for the buildings. I would like to ask Mr. Pallantzas the following question. What about the situation at the international sales marketing? Is there any requirement to have this type of certifications for the materials? And if yes, what are the advantages of having these certificates?
Well, I think that the reason was that passive house concept was not so famous in the area. So it was not so known. And there were some small projects only in the area, and maybe Turkish companies didn't know that it is existing, and that there is a certification procedure also existing for components. Now that the market is growing very fast in Central Europe, Central and Northern Europe, I'm sure that Turkish companies receive inquiries with certified products, and that's why they are coming to us also and to PHI in Germany, and are asking for a component certification. So I'm pretty sure that in the next couple of years, many Turkish products will get the passive house certification, and we are ready to support this, and we will be very happy to cooperate with Turkish companies for that. I'm sure that it will be happening in the next couple of years, also in the area, because also in Turkey we have done since 2 years a very serious restart in passive house concept, and Zero Build Forum also helped us too. So I believe that everything will change in the coming years.
Thank you very much.
Just a second. Naz Hanım, there is a question to you. First of all, she thanks for your presentation. Is it possible to certify individual buildings as well? Yes. Even detached houses and also buildings, apartments can be certified. If you are the owner of a house, then you can certify your house. I don't want to give wrong information, but if it is a individual commercial building, it is not possible. But if it's a building, or if there is more than one occupant, then we prefer to certify the whole building if possible. But each house is certified in our scheme. That means even if the house is sold to someone else, there is an addendum to the registry of the house. That means the energy efficiency is transferred from one user to another one. Thanks a lot. And last question is as follows. We are about to finish our session. Let me ask the participants questions. Hello, in this session, as a civil engineer, what kind of trainings can I attend and can I receive? I think Namık Bey can answer these questions. You can make some recommendations, and we as the ministry, in fact, we are providing this energy efficiency and also certification, but we are also creating employment opportunities because we have trainings that are being carried out by companies which we authorize. That means our colleague who is the civil engineer can attend this type of issue. And he can work as a consultant as well. And he can, of course, work after all these trainings. It seems that there are more opportunities for engineers and also other experts So there is more opportunity, employment opportunities in this sector. Yes, about 9,000 engineers were certified as the energy efficiency experts, and we will have similar opportunities for the green certificate. Thanks a lot. As a journalist, my question is as follows. The question is about the consumers mainly. While we are thinking of buying a new house, or while I'm thinking how to improve the quality of my life, to improve my contribution to nature and environment, what might be the questions, what might be the points that I need to take into consideration? For example, should I go and consult the provincial directorate of the Ministry of Urbanization and Environment, or should I go and check the certificates, or what are the standards, etc.? So what might be the framework to question? Let me answer this question. It's a valid question. People, for example, spent 5,000 or 10,000 for their mobiles, and then they ask its guides. But although we pay millions of Turkish liras for our house, we do not ask any guide how to use it. I think it will be very useful to ask and obtain a guide to use it. As I said, our ministry is having no document other than the questioning. You don't need to go to any public authority to question it. You can just check the address, which is quite easy to find, and you can question the energy document, and you will get detailed information about this issue, because its quality and even in the consumption of the hot water, the lighting, etc. And if there is any renewable energy, you will get details about this renewable energy values as well. When we will have this green certificate, and if the building is certified, then you will get more detailed information. If it is close to public transport, or if it is close to a cycling path, etc. It's a very good question. Yes, thanks a lot. I also would like to add, while people are about to buy, we usually check if it is in the right location, what is the direction, if it is south or not, which is understandable. It refers to standards, minimum standards that we will have. You can, of course, question through this e-state, e-government platform. And for the existing building, for the buildings that were built before 2011, you can check. And if there is this energy performance document, then it is important for us. Nazanım, you can comment on this issue from the international perspective. So I think consumers can act as a catalyzer to improve this area. As my colleagues stated, certificates and also energy performance certificates are very important as an interface, because a potential client may not have this type of technical information, may not know the technical details, because people are concerned about the money that they are paying. And these documents should be user-friendly so that clients or users may not. For example, I'm not the owner of the house, and the owner of my house usually receives my complaints about the installation and also energy efficiency. So it is about the energy issues, and also financing tools are important. And there is also need for communication tools. And I think these certificates are important. Mr. Pallantzas, what about the habits or attitudes of the consumers as regards to these type of certificates for the NZEP buildings, or is there any request from the consumer side, from the user side?
If I understand well, you ask me how should end users request for zero energy buildings? Is it right?
Yes.
I think so. Okay. Look, the end users, we all, the citizens, must understand that that the climate crisis is already here. It's not coming. She's here, present. And they must also know, and someone has to inform them, and we are responsible for that, that 40% of the reason of this climate crisis is coming from the buildings that we use and we live in, because we live 80% of our lives inside buildings. So asking for better buildings, asking for zero energy buildings is something like changing our way of life. So it's a very serious decision. It's not a trendy culture or something like that. It's a really very serious decision for ourselves. Because otherwise, if we don't ask for better buildings, we will be the first generation in history better than his parents and his children. And we have to stop this, especially for our children. This is my opinion, why we should ask for better buildings.
Thank you very much. Efendim çok teşekkür ederiz.
Thanks a lot for your contributions and for your presentations. Thanks a lot. I also would like to thank the audience. There's a saying in Turkish that we should not cut the branch of a tree that we are sitting on. We should be careful about this issue, and we should pay attention to the intrinsic value of the tree. And thanks a lot for your efforts in this respect. Thanks a lot and have a nice day.